baptism, because this is how you baptize someone. You just put somebody down here and you baptize them. Water pitcher, because there's a water pitcher here. Stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, and sea, because these are all water bodies. Because there's water in the picture, they're used to talk about water bodies. No, the cusp is 1/10, right? Because you have 2 signs, which is 60 days, and 6 of them are the cusps. The first 3 days of the sign and the last 3 days of the other sign. Now, each zodiac sign in the precession of the equinox, we're talking about it going backwards, because during the year it goes Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus. But on the precession of the equinoxes, it goes backwards. We were in Aries, we were in Pisces, now we're going to Aquarius. So it's going backwards. It's a slippage. Now, in Cancer, there's a group of stars up here called the Beehive Cluster. That's where the honey comes from. The Beehive Cluster back in the day, further back, used to be called the Manger. So what happens is you have the honey here, and then in Sagittarius right here, you have the center of the Milky Way galaxy.
Everything in the Bible are stories, and none of it have any historicity, or basically they combine some of the historicity with some of the celestial things.
It's a combination. It's a combination.
If you are new to this podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share, because that helps us to be recommended in the algorithms. If you would like to support this podcast, please check out our merch store on Amazon with the brand Todd and Me. We've got some cool t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and sweaters. Link will be in the description of this podcast. And if you're now starting a spiritual journey, you would like to start a spiritual journey, or you're currently on a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, please hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246, and it will help you to get some magic mushrooms. Enjoy the show and stay tuned, because we have some more great content coming soon. Imagine if the very stories you grew up believing about God, about history, and about the Bible itself were not meant to be taken literally. What if those sacred texts were never about morality, but about the stars? And what if the world's elites have been using those star maps to control humanity for 6,000 years? Hello, beautiful and amazing people. Welcome to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. I am your host, Todd Cave, and my guest today, Micah Dank, is an author, researcher, and astrotheologian who reveals the codes hidden inside scripture and history. He argues that the Zodiac isn't just an ancient calendar, it's the master key to religion, power, and manipulation. In this conversation, we'll uncover how elites have weaponized astrology, why the Bible is an encrypted book of star knowledge, and what it means for humanity's awakening if we finally break free of its cosmic programming. This is not just a podcast. It's a challenge to everything you've ever believed, so stay tuned.
When truth is blurred by lies and misinformation, perception becomes reality. What will you perceive your reality to be?
Liberate your fears and walk with me.
Sit down and meditate. Connect with your soul.
Be a monster, and then learn how to control it.
You gotta be willing to do the work.
So it really goes really deep in terms of words and etymology and what they mean. So this is why it is really hard to really crack the matrix, because there's so many levels and layers to it, you know. Micah, it's really good to have you on the show today, and you reached out to me, and I'm very interested to have this conversation. Some things resonate with me, others I'm a bit on the fence, so I'm hoping to, have some clarity in some of the things I sit on the fence with. So how are you today, my friend?
I'm good. I'm glad we finally got together, because I know this is like the 4th or 5th time we tried to do this. But thank you for being patient. But we finally got through, and let's do this. Yes, I'm very keen to see the stuff that you're going to present, and I've delved into astrotheology a little bit, but it doesn't 100% resonate with me, although some things do. Have you seen any of my work? Yes, I have.
And that's why I said that, because I look at things from a slightly different point of view. And I've done quite a bit of research in these journals of information. But I do agree that there's some things that are quite clear. Other things, like I say all the time, I put things on the shelf. And what I mean by that is that I don't dismiss things. I put them there so that if in the future it resonates with me, or I get more information that confirms that thing, I can come back from the shelf and pick it up. So I try to be as open-minded as possible and leave a door open that something can, I can change my mind. Because the way I say it, if you're not able to question your opinions or beliefs, or have your opinions or belief challenged, then you're in a religion. And religion, I think, is one of the most, what I should say, heinous things that has been ever given to humanity. Mm-hmm. And some of the worst acts have taken place because of religion. So I try my best to always stay as open and honest, as I can, and without trying to dismiss something. Unless someone's going to tell me that a boy is a girl and a girl is a boy, then that's a hard red line. Mm-hmm. Where, that's just simple biology, right? But other than that, I tend to, keep my mind open and be willing to hear different points of view and stuff like that. Because I've certainly had people on my show that I've not necessarily agreed with 100%, but I let them talk so that I can learn something. Because if you think that you know everything, then it shows that you really know nothing at all,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so you have a presentation for us today, and they're probably going to be asking a few questions in between. So, yeah, over to you, my friend.
Okay, so bear with me just one sec. The Bible scriptures are metaphysical, astrological, that's what I'm going to cover today, anatomical, alchemical, spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. It's also a gematria, an etymology, a numerology, a symbology, and a psychedelic book. There's 12 holy sciences. Like the 12 Zodiacs, like the 12 tribes of Israel, like the 12 disciples, like the 12 months. It's all basically the same. I'm going to give you an example of numerology real quick, as soon as I let you know that they are not literal, historical, reality, or original. All this is very important, that all of this is not that. So, numerology. John 21:11. So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. So they mentioned the 153 fish. They're very specific about that number. Well, this right here, what you see here is the Vesica Pisces right here that I have highlighted right here. This is two interloping circles. This is also known as a Venn diagram. Now, the Vesica Pisces itself, Pisces being the two fish, I can show you that within here, you might be able to recognize this symbol if I just do this. And now you have one fish, one of the Jesus fish.
Yeah, the fish.
Here's the second fish. This is the symbol it makes. This is the two fish. This, right here, the mathematical equation of the Vesica Pisces is 265 over 153. So they knew ancient numerology back in the day. They just encoded it. And that's just one example. That's just numerology, but I want to go back to the astrotheology. Now, the thing that you have to know is that this right here that I'm doing, the astrological part, is just one of the many sciences in the Bible. So I'm going to read to you something ahead of time because you're probably going to start seeing these patterns and you're going to wonder what's the point of it. So I answer this at the beginning and then later on. So what is the point of this? Why did they do what I'm about to show you? Well, we take for granted we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for the harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus is when you put the plow on the bull and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing. they would look at the stars and see all this movement and make up stories about them and pass them down to their children, then them to their children, etc. Eventually, they learned how to write and wrote them down, and they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism in the Old Testament, then to the Christians into the New Testament, and for the Muslims in the Quran, the Book of Mormon. I mean, it's in absolutely everything. The Gnostic text, the Ethiopian Bible, the Colburn Bible, the Apocrypha. It's in everything, and I'm going to show you that. So this quote that I have here, my point once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So before I jump right into scripture and show you how this works with the zodiac wheel, this is the zodiac wheel. So, for example, if I'm talking about Aries, that's the ram. If I'm talking about Taurus, that's the bull. But if you're in between here, which is known as a cusp, you could talk about the ram or the bull. But if you're only in one sign, you can only talk about that one sign. There are only two patterns that you can make in the zodiac. One would be this, which is, if we're talking about Aries, you have Pisces, that's a connecting sign, and Taurus, that's the other connecting sign. So the two connecting signs. The third one you can make is its opposing sign, which has a lot to do in astrology when you get your birth charts done. But these are the patterns that you're going to make. These are the patterns that you're going to see. It's not going to go from Gemini to Aquarius or Cancer to Virgo because there's no pattern there. It's always going to follow these patterns.
Okay, I've got a question though,
Yeah.
before I forget. So you mentioned that the Vesica Piscis comes from the 265 over the 153.
Right.
So is that, because the Vesica Piscis can be formed just from a slight intersection with two circles and not necessarily, let me phrase that. You can have a slight intersection or a large intersection, but you will still get a Vesica Piscis being formed regardless. So how then does the 153 or
The
the
mathematical equation doesn't change. Whether it's a small middle or slightly overlapping, or the mathematical equation doesn't change. It still forms the same pattern.
Okay.
If I made this wider, it wouldn't actually change it. Or if I made it smaller, it wouldn't actually change it.
And the value that is created, what value is that? That just the intersection part? Is it the circumference, the area inside? What is the actual value that comes out of it? In terms of units, sorry, because the number will be the same, but I'm talking about the unit of measure because it's 265 over 153.
This would be the area, I believe.
So you're telling me that the area of whether it is a small intersection or a large intersection would be the same?
No, I'm not saying that. It's not the area. You're right. Let me go back to this a second.
Because 265 divided by 153 is 1.732026, right? So what I'm trying to understand is, I get the pattern, but what I'm trying to understand is that you can have the circles intersect.
Well, I pulled these two circles off the internet. I mean, you could do two different kinds of circles. They're overlapping. Obviously, if it comes a little closer, it's smaller. This isn't made to scale. What I'm showing you right now is not made to scale. I'm just showing you the pattern here. I'm showing you the inner circle, and I'm showing you the Jesus fish attached to it right here and right here. This is not meant to
I get the Right. I get the symbology, but so that you understand, I used to be a civil engineer. So this is part of how my brain works in terms of patterns, numbers, structure, and order. So if you're going to tell me that 265 over 153 produces 1.732026, okay, that's fine. But what unit of measurement or what field that we're looking in that confirms the Vesica Piscis, because it can't be area or circumference, because the Vesica Piscis can intersect at different parts. That's what I'm just trying to get clarification on, right? Because as a civil engineer, that does not make sense.
I see what you're saying.
Right. But I do see the pattern you're trying to show in terms of the fish. That, yes, I get that. And I do, because obviously Yeshua was talking about, his time was the Pisces, which is the fish.
Right.
Yes. And he said to look for the water bearer, which is Aquarius, which is where we're coming into now. So I like I said, I'm a little bit versed in these areas.
It's the ratio of the lines, basically.
The ratio of the lines. Okay. I'll have to.
It's the square root of 3.
Okay, square root of 3. So let's do something quick here. Yep. 1.732. Yeah, 501,206, close enough. Okay. So how then does that tie into necessarily create the Vesica Pisces?
In the sense that the Vesica Pisces is the 2 fish. Here's the 2 fish, and it's rich as we just discussed. The numbers are 265 over 153. So the 153 is a very powerful number in numerology too. But I'm not going into numerology. I just wanted to give an example of numerology to show a difference between what I'm actually going into.
Okay. I just wanted to get clarification because I know for sure someone will come and ask me the question. Well, Todd, what does this value actually mean? Where does it come from, right? So I was just trying to get in my head the symbology, but the symbology in terms of the fish, I get. Pisces was that epoch when Yeshua was. We're entering into Aquarius now, so I get the connection. But the number, because like I said, I used to be a civil engineer, didn't really make sense to me. That's all.
Okay. So there's questions that you can ask in the Bible. How Jesus was able to heal the blind, how he walked on water, how he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, why he was dead for 3 days, why is his birthday on December 25th. All that is astrology, and I'm going to show you that. Genesis 1:14, let lights appear in the sky to separate the day, the sun, from the night, the moon. Let them be signs, the zodiac signs, to mark the seasons, days, and years. And this goes into what I was just explaining to you before, that it's a farmer's almanac, that it tells you what to do, when to do it. Now, each zodiac sign is called a house, and it has other names. Era, an eon, a sign, a mansion. There's many different ways that they've been explained throughout the Bible. So basically what I'm going to show you guys is I'm going to show you how Jesus is the sun. And I'm sure you've heard about Zeitgeist, and I'm sure you've heard about all this stuff before, people showing it to you, but I'm going to make a better case for it than Zeitgeist should have made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you guys the 12 signs, and I'm going to show you some keywords that attach to each sign. And if any of the keywords you don't agree with, let me know and I'll remove them, just to show you that it'll still work. What we're going to do is we're going to start with Aquarius. And the first sign I talk about is Aquarius, which is represented by the man. Now, technically, Aries begins the year. That's started in Judaism. Further back in the Egyptian times, Virgo started the new year, the Virgin. So the sun would come to an end in its home in Leo, because the sun rules Leo. And then a brand new sun would be born to a virgin, and a new year would start during the wheat harvest. That's why the virgin holds the wheat stalk, but we'll get to that. The story of Aquarius, one of the iterations, goes back to the story of Zeus and the young boy. So the story goes like this. Zeus saw a young boy on Earth, and I think they were specific. I think they said it was like a 14-year-old blonde boy on Earth. And he thought he was beautiful, and he wanted him on Mount Olympus with him, or in heaven, as the Greeks saw it. Now, the funny thing is about Mount Olympus, people, is that Mount Olympus is a real place on Earth. It is. Mount Olympus is a real place on Earth. And none of the Greeks thought to climb the mountain to see if there were any gods partying up there. But nonetheless, so Zeus wants the boy's father won't let him go. So eventually what happens is Zeus bargains with the boy's father, and the boy's eventually allowed to go up. Now, while he's up, just like in this picture on the right, he's serving the gods what's known as ambrosia out of the water pitcher. It was the nectar. It's what the gods drank. And he's doing this day in and day out, day in and day out. He gets so fed up with this that one day what happens is he goes to the side, to the edge, and he pours it out, and that causes a great flood on earth. That's where the Greeks get their flood story from. Now, Zeus, who's usually an angry, benevolent, sexually deviant, unpredictable god, was going to punish him. But in a rare moment of self-reflection, Zeus is like, I probably shouldn't have brought him up. He was young, he had friends, he had a life, and I took it away from him. So he thinks to himself, what's he going to do about this situation? And what he does is, instead of punishing the boy, he immortalizes him as the constellation Aquarius right here. So the keywords for Aquarius are man, because Aquarius is the sign of the man, whereas Virgo is the sign of the woman. Baptism, because this is how you baptize someone. You just put somebody down here, and you baptize them. Water pitcher, because there's a water pitcher here. Stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, and sea, because these are all water bodies. Because there's water in the picture, they're used to talk about water bodies. Now, in astrology, Aquarius is actually an air sign. It's not actually a water sign. Pisces, the next sign, is a water sign. But because there's water in this picture, they used it to describe water. Just so the Pisces, which is the two fish in the water that we just went over. So Jesus feeds the masses with two fish. So stream, river, pond, lake, sea, ocean, all water bodies for Pisces. Now, the reason I started with Aquarius is because the first two signs that I talk about, Aquarius or Pisces, both involve water. So why is that? Why would they dedicate two signs to water? Well, it depends on the verbiage that they use and the way that they phrase the water is how you know if it's Aquarius or Pisces. Now, Aries is the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day, a 12-hour night. There's three types of Passovers that occur during Aries. The first is the astrological Passover, which is the oldest. This is the day, March 21st, where the sun passes over the equator and starts to make its way up to its height in Cancer in the summer solstice. The Jewish Passover is when the angel of death passes over all the houses in Egypt. And anyone that doesn't have the ram or the lamb's blood, again, they smear the doorposts with the lamb or the ram's blood. Because the Jews are the people of Aries, the ram. That's why they blow the ram's horn during the high holidays. Whereas the Egyptians were the people of Taurus. That's why they were making a golden calf, or the sun in Taurus. Anyone that doesn't have the ram or the lamb's blood smeared on their doorposts, their firstborn sons get killed. The death of the firstborn son is a very potent story that happens throughout history in the ancient texts. Now, the Christianity changes it, and it becomes the resurrection of God's Son. And that's Easter. And Easter's astrology, too, if you don't know this, because first you have to have March 21st, the spring equinox. And then after March 21st, you have to have the first full moon. And then after the first full moon, you have to have a first Sunday after the first full moon, after the spring equinox, and that's how you figure out when Easter is every year, because it changes. So for Aries, it would be...
I thought Easter was more for Ishtar.
If you go back far enough, yes. Yes, we could go back very, very far for that. Ishtar, the fertility goddess. That's why there's bunnies, and that's why there's eggs. The fertility, we can go into that for sure. But for this purpose, Aries, when you're talking about ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn, that's Aries. Now, Taurus is the bull. And when you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know that you need to put the plow on the bull. So it's literally as above, so below. You see the bull in the sky, you put the plow on the bull on earth. Now, we have John Deere equipment that does this right now. We don't need to do that anymore. But back in the day, they used the bull to till the land. What happens is the bull tills the land, and then you plant the seeds so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra, which we'll get into. So whenever you're talking about bull, ox, calf, or cow being the female bull, you're talking about Taurus. Then Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy. Remember those names. We're going to come to them later. Whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's a story of Achilles. This is another Greek story. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, you're talking about Gemini. Then Cancer is the crab. The crab in the ancient Egyptian time was known as the scarab. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, that's Cancer. So let me show you why Cancer is the crab. So starting on December 25th, the sun rises a degree on its axis. December 26th, another degree. December 27th, another degree. Every day, this is not to scale, by the way, at all. I'm just showing the pattern. Every day the sun is going to climb through these zodiac signs to make its way to its height in the summer. When it gets to June 21st, that's the summer solstice. It's the longest day of the year, the shortest night of the year. What it's going to do on June 22nd, 23rd, and 24th is it's not going to rise an additional degree or drop a degree. It's going to walk to the same height as June 21st. So it's going to walk sideways. And what does the crab do? The crab walks sideways. And then what it's going to do is it's going to drop a degree on June 25th, drop another on the 26th. Now the nights are getting longer, the days are getting shorter. Again, this is not to scale. I'm just showing you what happens. Because what happens is you have in Sagittarius, the last day, December 21st, that's the day of death. So the death, astrologically, is December 21st. Because what happens is it's at its lowest point. It's the shortest day of the year, the longest night of the year. The ancients would look out into the horizon, and they would see that the sun didn't crack the horizon on this particular day. So they would say God's sun was dead. And then for 3 consecutive days, it's going to walk sideways like the crab. So suddenly God's sun was dead for 3 days. We're on December 25th, or the birth of all the gods from all the time of history. The sun comes back to life. It's born again, the risen Savior, the light of the world, all the things that Jesus is called. So Leo is the king.
When you said the sun wouldn't crack the horizon, you mean in terms of a certain position?
Yes. Because obviously, a certain position, it wouldn't crack the horizon. They would look out, and it would be eye level. It wouldn't crack the horizon in the morning. So they would say, okay. So God's sun was dead. And then, again, they measured it. It didn't rise a degree or lower a degree. So what basically happens is from December 25th, it rises a degree. Every day, it's going to rise an additional degree until it hits June 21st. Walk sideways for 3 days, drop a degree a day, drop a degree, drop a degree, drop a degree, stop December 21st, walk sideways for 3 days, and come back to life December 25th. And the sun does this without fail every year. If you've ever seen a time lapse of a sun, it makes a figure 8 in the sky. So,
no, I've never seen it. Because the thing is, I'm wondering if it's because I never actually observed if the sun rises high in the sky or not after the winter solstice. I never looked at it. I know you have sunlight, obviously.
Well, are you in the northern hemisphere?
Countries. Yes.
Are you in an area where you don't have light pollution?
Somewhat.
Or industry?
I would have to go to the beach to see it.
Yeah,
I can go to the beach and it'd be pretty clear there.
Yeah, you would have to. Yes. What you'll do is when you go out there before it's light, what you're going to do is you're going to look where the sun is because it's going to illuminate the blue of the sky before it makes its way up. If you look directly above the sun, directly above, you'll see Venus. Venus is the light bringer, the light bearer. It brings the light, the sun. It's Lucifer. That's what it is.
Yes.
And then you'll see the sun come up. I would suggest doing that. That's what I never actually look at time-lapse cameras over a year's period as far as the sun goes. I mean, it's probably much quicker for you to do that on like YouTube or something. But it doesn't make a perfect figure 8, but it does make a figure 8. It's a little basier on the bottom. But you do get to see the figure 8, and it'll where they connect in the middle, that's the solstices. I'm sorry, that's the equinoxes, and their edges are the solstices. It's like this.
So you're saying that over the time of a year, the sun does like that? So that's basically infinity symbol, though, really?
Well, yes, it's the infinity symbol, but it's a figure 8, yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to do that, because I guess who actually, goes to just look to see the pattern of the sun, right?
You actually have to understand that there's people that do this and put this on YouTube, right? And they have time-stop cameras that are in the exact same location. You can't just go to a beach and snap a picture, then go to the beach and be in a different location and snap a picture. You have to be at the exact same location, and your camera has to be facing the exact same thing for you to see how this works.
Yeah, I'm going to look on YouTube for it, to be honest, because I never even thought about it until just now.
In fact, if you want to know what age we're in, because we're not quite in the age of Aquarius yet, but if you want to know what age we're in, what you do is on March 21st, the spring equinox, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the equator, one of the countries on the equator, and you're going to watch the sunrise. And behind the sun is a sign. The sign that the sun rises behind. No, the sign that's behind as the sun is rising, behind the sun, is the age that we're in. And right now we're kind of between Pisces and Aquarius.
Yeah. So is that, do you have an idea of when we actually go into the actual Aquarius? Because I know we're on the cusp.
Well,
some people call it,
cusp.
We're already in it.
Hold on. What am I on? Slide 16? Let me see if I can do this for you. Okay.
Yeah, because some people say we're definitely in it, but I think we're in the cusp.
So
really.
Each sign in a year's time is 12 times 360. No, 12 times 30 equals 360 degrees. Okay? You with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's 12 signs. They're each 30 degrees. That brings you to 360. The last 3 days of a sign and the first 3 days of the next sign are called cusps or handover days. Right? You're talking about the cusp.
Yep.
Now, so you have two signs with 60 days and 6 cusp days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the cusp is 1/10, right?
Okay.
Each zodiac sign on the precession of the equinoxes is 2,160 years. You're going to times that.
Really?
Yes. Each sign is, and if you divide it by 30, you get 72.
Right, 2160. Sorry, I thought you said each cusp. Sorry, I misheard you.
No, the cusp is 1/10.
You said each cusp.
Because you have two signs, which is 60 days, and 6 of them are the cusps. The first 3 days of the sign and the last 3 days of the other sign. Now, each zodiac sign in the precession of the equinox, we're talking about it going backwards, because during the year it goes Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus. But on the precession of the equinoxes, it goes backwards. We were in Aries, now we were in Pisces, now we're going to Aquarius. So it's going backwards. It's a slippage. Each zodiac sign in the precession of the equinoxes is 2160 years. So times that by 2 signs, and that's 432, 4,320. 1/10 of that, which equals the cusps of the 2 signs, is 432 years. That's how long the cusp lasts for. And hello, that's a harmonic frequency too.
Yeah, so each cusp is 432
so
years.
We are somewhere in the middle of this 432 years. The age of Pisces was the age of belief. The age of Aquarius is the age of knowing. And we're shedding our Piscean. That's why there's a lot of people that are still struggling with religion as it's making its way out, as they're trying to do all this stuff to keep people interested in it. So that's basically how the cusp works. So Leo is the king.
So we probably have quite a few years to go before we end in.
That's right.
To the actual Aquarius. If unless they give us life extension technology, most of us probably won't be actually when it is actually fully Aquarius.
Correct. So Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you hear lion, lioness, or cub, that's Leo. Then here's Virgo, with the wheat stalk that I'm highlighting. Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. Remember before when we were saying that you plant in Taurus, Well, the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin or woman, because Virgo is the sign of the woman, whereas Aquarius is the sign of the man, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, these are all grainy things that thousands of years ago in the northern hemisphere, they used to cultivate during Virgo, during the wheat harvest. Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over, or actually technically passes under, the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. Libra is also wine season, which is when you plant for the grapes in Taurus, you can press the wine here. Libra is also olive season. That's when you press the olives to get the oil. So all law-related things like law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, these are all lawly things that's attached to Libra. Wine, vineyard, wine press, grapes, that's also Libra. Olive oil is Libra. I don't expect you to remember this. I just hope that you're able to remember that I said it. That's all I need you to remember. Oh yeah, he did say that. So all law-related things, all wine-related things, and all olive-related things are Libra. Then Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like two lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death. The kiss of death. And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra, and it's betrayed in Scorpio. Finally, in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun. This is where the sun dies. Why? Because on December 21st, the last day of Sagittarius, the sun is at its lowest point. It cannot rise any lower. It's dead. It's the dead of winter. We went over this. So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, or horseman, that's Sagittarius. And then finally you have Capricorn, which is the goat. So if you watch me climb a degree every single day, it starts the climb up what's known as the Great Mountain, which is what the Zodiac is known. And the reason Capricorn's at the bottom of the wheel is because it's the goat, and because the goat climbs the mountain better than anything. So those are the 12 signs. I kind of want to breeze through a little bit more stuff, but I need you to let me know what you think so far. If you're on board with this, if this makes sense, if...
No, I'm following where you're going, because when you first said the Capricorn, my first image was the ibex, you know?
Yeah.
So, but you know what? So the thing is, with the goat symbol, I have always sort of like put the goat symbol to be more like the scapegoat, which was...
Well, the scapegoat of Israel is a name for Jesus, correct?
So, and the thing is, I always thought, because you know, in the Old Testament, where I think it was Abraham, he was supposed to go and kill his son.
Yeah.
And then God told him, "Oh, don't do it anymore. You can sacrifice," and it was the scapegoat, right?
Uh-huh.
So the thing is that for me, that always I link that to characters like Azazel, right? Because Azazel, that was the actual original term that was used, and then it changed to scapegoat, right? Through time. So I always, when I hear the star sign Capricorn, I always thought of Azazel, which I also think is very aligned or akin to Marduk, right? In the Sumerian pantheon. So I'm just interested to see how all those things tie into to what you're sharing today, because so far I very much get the symbology and the thought process and stuff behind it, so it makes sense to me.
All right. Okay, good. So as long as we're on the same page, because I'm going to start barreling through this because I have a lot of slides. So, okay, so there's names for Jesus. We were literally just talking about Capricorn, the goat. He's the scapegoat of Israel. When Jesus, or the sun, because look, the sun's behind his head in every single picture you'll ever find. And no, it's not a halo. The sun's behind his head. The two fingers up, that's the ancient Kemetic peace sign. The heart outside the body is the toroidal field. The crown of thorns is the rays of the sun. These are in every single picture that they show you. But Jesus being the sun, the man sign Aquarius, he's known as the Son of Man. When Jesus, the sun, is in Pisces, the two fish, he's the fisher of men. And it's also why he feeds the masses with two fish. When the sun is in Aries, he is the Lamb of God, or the Good Shepherd. Cancer, the scarab beetle from the Egyptian times. St. Augustine called Jesus the good beetle. The sun in Leo, he is the Lion of Judah. The lady holding the stalk of wheat, Virgo, he is born of a virgin and he's called the bread of life. Libra is the scales of justice. He is known as the just one. He's betrayed in Scorpio. He dies in Sagittarius on December 21st, and that's why he's worshipped on the sun day. So what I want to do now is I want to show you how this works in Scripture. Deuteronomy 32. And I'm going to highlight the words. He gave them honey from the cliffs, olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So let's start from the beginning. He gave them honey. This right here is the first day of Cancer. This is the first day of summer. If you follow it all the way down, it's the last day of Sagittarius. That's the first day of winter. Now, in Cancer, there's a group of stars up here called the Beehive Cluster. That's where the honey comes from. The Beehive Cluster back in the day, further back, used to be called the Manger. So what happens is you have the honey here, and then in Sagittarius right here, you have the center of the Milky Way galaxy. So what you have is the beginning of the summer all the way to the beginning of the summer all the way to the first day of winter. This land right here is your land of milk and honey. It's not a place on earth. So, olive oil is Libra. The milk is the Milky Way galaxy, which centers in Sagittarius. He gave them lambs, that's Aries, and goats, that's Capricorn. They had the best rams from Bashan, that's Aries, and the finest wheat, that's Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes, that's Libra. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull, that's Taurus. There's 10 signs in Deuteronomy 32. Now, moving along, this is the Mount of Olives. I'm going to show you how you use the Zodiac wheel now. That's not just scripture. Jesus led his disciples, let me highlight this, to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover so that he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olives, he gave the parable of the true vine. So watch how this works. Passover takes place in Aries, which is right here. Well, right after that, they walk to the Mount of Olives. Well, olives are Libra. That's opposing sign. One of the connections I told you. Now you're in Libra. What's the next thing they do? They're waiting for Judas to betray him. Well, the betrayer is Scorpio, the betrayer, which is the next sign over. So right now you're seeing two patterns. But they were clear. They said that they were waiting for the betrayal, not that he had betrayed him. So we're going to remove that so that we're still in Libra. And while you're in Libra, he gave the parable of the true vine, which has to do with grapes, which has to do with wine, which has to do with Libra. Remember, Libra is law, wine, and olives, remember. So you have an opposing sign, and then a connecting sign, and then you just remove the connecting sign, and then you're still in Libra. So that's how you start to make the patterns there. Now, if I were to show you Revelation 4:7, the first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. The first living creature was like a lion, that's Leo. The second was like an ox, that's Taurus. The third had a face like a man, that's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the scorpion is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on earth. In the Bible, the first thing that God does after the deception in the Garden of Eden is not kick man and woman out. That's not the first thing he does. The very first thing he does is he takes the legs away from the snake, if you remember the story. And that's important because now the snake is slithering on its belly. It's considered a low form of life. However, the ascendant or the evolved form of Scorpio is the eagle. The eagle is the highest flying form of life on earth. The eagle evolves again into the phoenix. The phoenix is the story of the Christ, of the sun. It's the same story. It's a flaming ball of life that dies, metaphorically, and then comes back from its ashes. So you have Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are the four fixed signs of the zodiac. So what does that mean? You have Taurus right here. You have Aquarius right here. You have Scorpio right here. And you have Leo right here. Well, if you connect them, makes a nice little X through the zodiac wheel. These are known as the fixed signs, okay? Because you have 12 signs and you have 4 seasons. So 12 divided by 4 is 3 signs in each season. This is the first month of summer. This is known as the cardinal sign. That's why there's cardinals in church. In astrology, you can break these 30-day segments, 12 30-day segments, into 3 10-day segments called deacons, which is why you have deacons and cardinals in church. This is the cardinal sign. This is the fixed sign. This is the mutable sign that takes you out. Now, the reason it's called fixed is because you see it right here. It's stuck between the two. So it's in the middle of the season. Leo is the summer, Scorpio is fall, Aquarius is winter, and Taurus is spring. So, if I'm reading this, the first living creature was like a lion, the second was like an ox, the third had a face like a man, the fourth was like a flying eagle. I mean, either there's going to be either Revelation is real, and there's going to be a 4-headed creature coming in, or it's literally just making this pattern in the Zodiac, because all 4 are mentioned. Now in Ezekiel 10:14, each of the cherubim had 4 faces. One face was that of a cherub, the second the face of a human being, the third the face of a lion, the fourth the face of an eagle. It's the same thing. Now Revelation 12, a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its head. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. This is the constellation Draco, the dragon. So a woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in Virgo. It's just a metaphor for the sun being in Virgo. And if the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So this is the zodiac wheel right here. There's 12 zodiac signs, and there's a 24-hour-a-day clock. Therefore, the sun spends 2 hours a day in each sign. This is also a clock. So the sun is in Capricorn between midnight and 2, 2 and 4, 4 and 6, 6 and 8, 8 and 10, 10 and 12, 12 and 2, 2 and 4, 4 and 6. Remember, the sun's clothed in Virgo. That's between 4 and 6 p.m. Well, if it's between 4 and 6 p.m., like it literally is right now in my house, and I look outside, the sun is still out. Well, if the sun is out, then the moon is at her feet. Not literally. We know the moon is up there too. But it's a metaphor. If the sun is out, the moon is at her feet. Whereas if the moon is up, the sun is at her feet. Now another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. The constellation Draco is the dragon, and I'm highlighting it right here. This is the tail. It's enormous, by the way. The tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the signs, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. It's just celestial poetry. That's what they're trying to show you. Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep, that's Aries, in the midst of wolves. The opposing sign, Libra, so that's a connection you make right there, has a constellation called Lupus, which means the wolf. So be wise as serpents. Well, between Scorpio and Sagittarius, you have the 13th sign known as Ophiuchus. And Ophiuchus' serpent is serpent, or serpents. And harmless as doves. One of the evolutions of Scorpio is the dove. There's 8 evolutions of Scorpio. It's kind of irrelevant to this right now, but I've already told you that it was the... So far, you have Scorpio, and then you have the eagle, and then you have the phoenix. The dove is one of them. There's many different ones that go into that. So basically, what you're looking at is you're looking at an opposing sign right here. That's one pattern. And then 2, 3 signs in a row. So it makes a very clear pattern.
Good question then. So I know about Ophiuchus, and I know that there's some suggestion that Ophiuchus represents Yeshua. So since we use a 12 zodiac wheel, how was Ophiuchus obfuscated, and basically was he included before, or basically it was?
So there's two different types. There's 2 types of astrology. You have whole sign astrology, which is known as tropical, which is what I've been showing you this whole way. And then you have Vedic sidereal astrology. That includes Ophiuchus. Let me show you the zodiac wheel real quick. Okay. So you see how the zodiac wheel is perfect? It's 30 degrees times 12. These are absolutely perfect. Well, the difference is that Vedic astrology is actually the size of the constellation. For example, Virgo right here would probably go to like here. It's a month and a half long, whereas Scorpio is only 6 days long. So it's actual size of the constellation. So the signs don't actually match up. But the way I describe it is, say me and you are going to a party, or we just left recording this podcast and we're going to a party and we both jump in an Uber. And we both jump into 2 different Ubers. Now, they might punch in the same exact location where they're trying to go, but they might take different avenues to get there. That's what this basically is, the division between the 2 of them. Ophiuchus is not on our ecliptic, but it sits right here between Scorpio and Sagittarius, and it's not a very big sign at all. It's the basket. It's a man holding, can you see me still?
Yeah.
It's a man holding a basket, and the snake is facing this way. So it's basically the snake is facing towards Sagittarius. So there's a biblical scripture that says, and Dan will become a serpent, and the serpent will bite the heel of the horse, and the rider will fall off. Well, if you look at Ophiuchus or serpent, which is the snake in the basket, it's actually facing Sagittarius. So it would literally bite the horse's heel, and the rider would fall off. This is just celestial metaphors. That's what this is.
You know what it made me think of immediately? Because you know that really we're supposed to have 28 days for 13 months using the lunar calendar. So I'm wondering if, this just came to me, if using a lunar calendar or a lunar cycle, you would be able to put Ophiuchus into the same wheel. It doesn't make a difference because the zodiac signs don't line up with the months. The beginning of a sign isn't the first of the month. Every sign. No, I don't mean with the month.
I'm sorry?
I mean in terms of the celestial wheel, because it's just mathematics, right? Because 28 days times 13 months, from memory, it was 360 days or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously you had the day for reset. So I was just like off the top of my head where it was like, okay, I do get the zodiacs, and Ophiuchus, as you said, is the 13th. But then how would you get it fit into the wheel? Because it just seems like it's just mathematics and just shortening.
Well, I told you that
30 days to be 28 days.
In sidereal astrology, Virgo is about a month and a half long, because that's how big it is. That's how long it takes to go through there. Whereas Scorpio is 6 days. So if you actually size all these constellations, it does come out to 360.
Okay. So it's not even perfect, like how you have the 30 days or the 28 days already using the sun calendar or the lunar calendar. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
so I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry-picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. So let's take a much longer one and see if we can decode it as well. This is the story of Job. You know the story of Job, right?
Yep.
You want to explain it to everyone real quick?
Well, Job was, quotation marks, God's favorite servant. He was one of the wealthiest people alive. And Satan, well, what they call Satan, because I have different views on that. But for this story, Satan told God, hey, God, you see that guy there? I'm going to break him. He says, you can't break him. He says, I'll make him turn to me. And he says, well, do what you want with him. So he killed all of his family. He took away all of his money. He had equivalent like tumors on his body,
mm-hmm.
and massive drought and famine and everything like that. And then just at the point where Job was like almost about to crack, he cried out to God and he said, God, well, you know what I mean? Basically, what you doing all this to me? You ain't gonna stop. And then he was like, okay, Job, you're my faithful son. And he told Satan to stop. And he rewarded Job with even more than what he had before.
That's correct. Now, a couple of things that I wanted to add an addendum to yours, because that was a very good breakdown. Satan was told, you can do anything to him, but you cannot take his life. That was one of the things. Then
that's true.
Then the other thing too is that he had a wife, he had family, he had money, he had land, he had animals, he had everything. And he's right. Little by little, he starts taking away everything. Now, you mentioned that he cries out to God, right? What I'm going to read you is God's response to him. Okay?
Okay.
Job 38:32. Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? The word Mazzaroth was intentionally untranslated over the years, over the thousands of years, because they don't want you to know that the Mazzaroth actually is a direct translation to the Zodiac. That's what it means. The Mazzaroth means Zodiac. The word Mazzaroth over time becomes Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today, Mazel Tov, which everybody knows how old that is. You can only imagine how old Mazzaroth is. Mazel Tov means good fortune from the stars. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Those are obviously open discussion, celestial metaphors. Now, the Pleiades are in Taurus. Orion's belt is between Taurus and Gemini. Can you bring forth the constellations in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above, and the bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper. That's Gemini and Cancer. Well, if you look at this right now, the first three, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer, are 3 signs in a row. So there's a clear pattern there. Who can tip over the water jars of the heavens? That's literally the man Aquarius. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger for the lions? That's Leo. Well, guess what? Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo are 4 signs in a row. So just at the beginning of the Lord's challenge to Job, okay, you have this pattern. You have Aquarius right here, and you have these 4 right here. This is just to open it up, but it continues. Who provides food for the raven? That's the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. You watch where the doe bears her fawn. That's Mariga, meaning deer. It is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's Acellus Borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. Do you give the horse? So they mentioned the horse, so we know that's Sagittarius. It's strength. But if you keep reading, it laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver, see, they mentioned the quiver. What is a quiver? A quiver sits on the side of the horse that holds the arrows. For the man with the bow and the arrow on the horse, which is literally Sagittarius. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? The eagle is Scorpio. Finally, he says, can you pull Leviathan with a fishhook? Leviathan was an ancient Piscean fish deity, the same as we have with Mithra, the same that we have with Dagon. I mean, there was just a ton of fish gods back then, and the fish is Pisces. So when it's all said and done, the Lord's challenge to Job, you have these 5 signs in a row. You have these 2 connecting signs, and you have these 2 connecting signs. The only ones that are missing are this, which form a specific pattern. Interesting, right?
Yeah. They call it forms a triangle.
Mm-hmm. So how was Jesus able to heal the blind? Well, Jesus, in the story, the man comes up to Jesus and he says, I can't see. And Jesus says, oh yeah, well, through your faith, I'll heal you. So he rubs dirt on his hands, he spits on it, or perhaps it's the other way around, rubs it on the man's eyes, and then when it falls off, he can see. But the sun does the same thing right now, because right now, it's 5:30, the sun is in Virgo, and I'm looking outside right now, and I can see, because the sun is out. When the sun goes down, I am blind. I cannot see without external light. So what happens is the sun comes up in the morning, it's risen again, and it touches my eyes, and when Jesus or the sun touches my eyes, I get to see. How he walked on water, we know the story that Jesus walked on water, but the sun also walks on water too. If you've ever gone fishing and you looked at the lake in the morning or the evening, you could see the sun walking on water. And also, the Jews wrote the New Testament in Greek. Christos is a title. It means anointed one or oil. Does oil also walk on water when you pour it on?
Yeah, it does.
So you have Jesus walking on water, the sun, and the Christos. This is a triple entendre right here. How he turned water into wine, this is not a parlor trick. This is actually a process. See, the reason God is considered a man and Mother Earth is considered a woman has to do with one thing only. And it has to do with the rain, the sacred fluid. In Hebrew, the word is shemen. We get the word semen from it. So you have to think about it like this. What happens is that when it starts to rain, that's God coming onto Mother Earth and impregnating her. And from her belly, food, vegetation, trees, fruits, food grows. So what happens is in Taurus, as above, so below, you see the bull, you put the plow on the bull. It's also April showers bring May flowers. That's Taurus. That's the season right there. That's April, May. So what happens is you plant the seeds for the grapes, and then it rains throughout the year. God's rain, God's water, God's water. And then what happens is in Libra, you pull the grapes and you crush them into the wine. That's how you turn God's water into wine. Why he had 12 disciples, we went through this before, but I'll go through it again real quick. So Libra would be James, because he's known as the just one. Scorpio would be Judas, because he's the betrayer. Aquarius in the 13th, if you're talking the 13th disciple, you're talking John the Baptist going around baptizing everyone. You have Gemini right here. This is Thomas Didymus, because in Hebrew, the word ta'om, or ta'om, means twin. Didymus in Greek means twin, and you can verify all this stuff. So I'm just giving you 4 examples right here of the disciples. I'm not going to go in through all of them, but I'm just letting you know that each one of them tells a story. Why he was betrayed.
Question, was it not Thomas his twin brother?
I'm sorry?
Was it not wasn't Thomas not his twin brother or someone's twin brother at the same time?
I don't recall that, to be honest with you. No, who's the twins? What was that? What was that?
There wasn't a twin in the disciples.
Simon and Judas. Those were his brothers, according to the scripture.
Yeah, because I remember reading somewhere that there was a twin. I can't remember if it was Yeshua's twin or it was a twin of one of the disciples. But I think from memory there was a twin involved somewhere in the disciples.
Well, but you see how Ta'om Didymus, twin, becomes twin.
Okay.
So why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, we went over that. Why he was dead for 3 days, we went over that. Why is his birthday on December 25th, we went over that. Now here's the question you didn't ask me yet. This science only works for people in the northern hemisphere, and there's a reason for that. The Egyptians, Jews, Christians, and Muslims are all based out of the northern hemisphere. For example, June 21st, the summer solstice, is actually the winter solstice in Australia and New Zealand, much of South Africa and South America. So you remember how I told you, let me just change the color real quick. Do you remember how I told you Taurus right here is where you plant? Well, because the seasons are inverted in the southern hemisphere, you would use the same exact storyline to go through the Bible. But when you're planting in real life, what you would do is go to its opposing sign, also known as 6 months apart. So you would plant in Scorpio, because that's the springtime, even though it's our fall time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the harvest time right here in Virgo, you just go across the wheel and harvest in Pisces. Make sense?
Yes.
And that's why it works this way. So, but it doesn't stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible that can be decoded this way. We're going to go through the entire book of Revelation to show how deep this runs. So, this is Revelation 4:7. This is the four-headed, the 4 fixed signs. And we went over this already, so I'm just going to skip it, okay? Revelation 5:5. Then one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, or Leo, the root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals." Well, Leo's ruling planet is the sun, and the sun is Christ. So that's what they're trying to tell you. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come." So the Lamb has to open the first seal because that's Aries, and Aries begins the year. So Aries would open the first seal. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures, that's the 4 fixed signs that we were talking about before, say in a voice like thunder. In Hebrew, the word for thunder translates to voices. So whenever they heard thunder, they would think God was speaking. That's what they thought. Revelation 6:2, I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow. Who's the rider with the bow and the arrow? Sagittarius, right there. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 living creatures. Again, this is the 4 fixed signs, saying 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. Well, check this out. The wheat and the barley is both Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. That's when it's cultivated. The oil and the wine, I told you, were both Libra. So you have 2 examples of Virgo, 2 examples of Libra, and those are connecting signs, Virgo and Libra. I watched as he opened the 6th seal. There was a giant earthquake. The sun turned black like a sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. Well, if you look at the zodiac wheel, the goat is Capricorn right here. Well, guess what? If you follow its opposing sign to Cancer, Cancer is ruled by the moon. So that's why they put the goat and the moon right there, because they make a pattern right there. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. There are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals. The sacral has 6. The solar plexus has 10. The heart has 12 and the throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it's 2 times as powerful as the lower chakras. So 48 times 2 is 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. When you add the lower 6, you get 96 plus 48 equals 144, and you times that by 1,000 and you get your 144,000. What they're trying to tell you is not that only 144,000 people get to go to heaven. What they're trying to tell you is when you've activated all your chakras, that's when you get to go see God. It's a gift for everyone. Revelation 9.
I've actually said that before. That I think that it may not necessarily be a literal number. I think it represents a sanction of human beings, because 144 is actually 9. 9 is the number of God. So it really does sound like a sanction to me. But I didn't know in terms of the chakras, in terms of the strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it pretty much aligns with what I have found as well. That is just simply the blueprint for illumination.
It is.
And upgrading your DNA.
It is. So Revelation 9:3, and out of the smoke, locusts came down onto the earth and were given powers like that of scorpions on the earth. So locusts came down and were given powers of scorpions. So you're going to see, because I'm going to do the book of Matthew, and then I think, to be honest with you, we're going to have to split this in half. I don't think I'm going to be able to go past 2 hours. But if you want to release this to everyone and let me know what they think, and if you want to have me back on for the second half, if that's something you'd be willing to do.
Well, let's see, because I put 2 hours, because I like 2 hours is like the sweet spot. So if we need to do another one, sure, we can do another one, but I can go for another hour.
Okay. So locusts, you're going to find out when we do the book of Matthew, are a food source. Locusts are a food source. That's how it's beneficial. But what is the power of the scorpion? What did I tell you at the beginning that the scorpion does? It betrays.
It betrays and it bites you.
It betrays and it bites you. It betrays you. So how would locusts become a betrayer? Well, they're a food source in Leviticus 11, which I'm going to show you shortly. But how do they betray? Well, too many of them is literally a plague. So that's the power that they're given. The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads they wore something like crowns of gold. So the locusts looked like horses. On their heads they wore something like crowns of gold. So the sun is golden and the sun is in Sagittarius. And their faces resembled human faces. Their hair was like women's hair, that's Virgo. And their teeth were like lion's teeth, that's Leo. They had tails with stingers like scorpions, that's Scorpio. So look at this. Sagittarius and Scorpio are connecting signs. Virgo and Leo are connecting signs. What the Bible is, and I'm going to go beyond the Bible into other texts too, but what the Bible is it is and by the way, in order to understand all these, like for example in Cancer, Salus Borealis or Ursa Major, all this, I am using Ptolemy's list that he came up with in 150 AD of the 48 constellations they knew at the time. I'm not using a modern one. I'm using one that was dated to this because that's what they knew. What this is celestial poetry that teaches you how to make connections with a keyword cipher. And there's stories built around them. They're metaphorical. Sagittarius and Scorpio are connecting signs. Virgo and Leo are connecting signs. So you can map that out. Now, next would be Revelation 12, which is the dragon, which we did. So let's skip it. Revelation 13:2. This is a short one. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. There's a constellation in Gemini called Camelopardalis. It's a combination of two words. Camelos, which means camel, and Pardalis, which means leopard. The giraffe's original name was Camelopardalis because they saw this weird, lanky-looking animal with spots, and they were like, that's a camel leopard. They had no other name for it. Camelopardalis is in Gemini. Ursa Major is in Cancer. Lion is in Leo. So the leopard is Gemini, the bear is Cancer, and the lion is Leo. In that short passage, you have three signs in a row. In a row, in just that one passage. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had two horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. Well, the lamb is Aries, and part of the dragon, which is Draco, is its tarts in Aries. So this is talking to you about the beginning of Aries. Cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense, myrrh and frankincense, by the way. I didn't explain this to you yet, but these are olive plants, and olives are Libra. The wine is Libra. The olive oil is Libra. That whole sentence is Libra. A fine flour and wheat, that's Virgo. Those are connecting signs, Virgo and Leo. The cattle is Taurus. The sheep is Aries. The cattle and the sheep are connecting signs, Taurus and Aries. Horses and carriages, that is Sagittarius. And human beings sold as slaves, that's Aquarius, the man, and Virgo, the woman. I mean, it's unbelievable. This is Revelation, by the way. People think this is going to actually play out word for word. My point, once again, is...
So,
yeah?
question then, because you had said that basically everything in the Bible is not to be taken literally, but we've taken it literally. So are you saying then that everything in the Bible are stories and none of it have any historicity, or basically they combine some of the historicity with some of the celestial things?
It's a combination. It's a combination. I have an 8-book series out, but my characters go to Egypt to see the pyramids. They go to see, they go to the Eiffel Tower. Those places exist. Does that mean my story is history? No. These are stories with a cipher keyword that basically they use these keywords and they make up different stories. But all these stories are basically the story of the sun going through the 12 zodiac signs. If you break them down.
Okay. Just different ways of expressing that idea.
Exactly.
Okay.
So here I say my point once again is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So let me show you the book of Matthew. Matthew 3:2, repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the 4 major points of the zodiac. That's summer, fall, winter, spring. When you connect these, by the way, they make the cross of God's Son that he carries to his death. Right here. Anyway.
So carried it, and then Simon Peter helped him with it. So
right.
There's some allegory in there as that as well.
Well, I'll show you. We'll get to that. This is the only. Okay, so the kingdom of heaven is Leo because the sun rules Leo. So the closest place to this would be here, which is June 21st. So next, this is the cusp handover date. Remember at the beginning I told you here you could talk about a crab, here you could talk about a lion. In the middle, you could talk about both.
Yes.
Matthew 3:4. John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts, so remember locust, and wild honey. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the Zodiac, we can make sense of this. And I've actually had people tell me that Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man didn't exist back then, so it couldn't be true what I'm saying, but I could have used, honestly, I could have used the dog. I could have used the stick figure. It doesn't matter. I just used the Vitruvian Man because it looked nice. So let's see if we can make sense of this. Cancer is the head. Why he eats the wild honey. The beehive cluster is here. His head is here. His mouth is here. So he's eating the honey. Leviticus 11. What's clean and unclean to eat. All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all four that you may eat. Of those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground, of these you may eat any kind of locust. So there it is. I told you we'd get to it. Katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. Oh. So when they're trying to tell you a pound of grasshoppers is 3 times as nutritious as a pound of beef, when they're just pushing this out in the media trying to get you to eat bugs, know that it's biblical, and it goes back to Leviticus 11. Now we
I was trying to picture what you said about the locust having a, was it, you said a helmet that was like had a head of gold or something like that, and the picture that came to my head was like the horseman having on the helmet, and then you have like something over the horse, as well, where you can just see the eyes. That's what came to mind when you said that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we started in Leo. Then we were in Cancer. Remember the mouth, the beehive cluster. Now we're in Gemini, which is a little lower, which is kind of like here. This is where it would be. It's a little lower on the body. This is a clothes made out of camel hair, or camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. So we have 3 signs in a row. Then a little bit lower, we have Taurus. This is the midsection right here. Gemini covered this. Cancer was the beehive cluster, the mouth. We started in Leo. That's 4 signs in a row now. Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus. Moving a little lower on the body, you get his midsection, which is where you'd wear a belt. Taurus represents the bull, and the female is the cow, and the cow is where you would get the leather. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits right here between Taurus and Gemini, right there. So next would be the baptism. So we were here at the beginning of Leo. At the beginning. How are we going to go from there to a water sign to signify the baptism? We'll go to its opposing sign. Remember, I'm only making opposing and connecting signs. So here you see the jump. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th and rises a degree a day, like this, then that means that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decreases a degree a day. This is why in John 3:30, John says, he must increase, but I must decrease. And it's also why, if you open the Catholic calendar, St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. St. John's Day is June 24th. They're 6 months apart. They are their opposing signs. So we're going back to Cancer, Leo right here, of July 24th. Well, what happens next? He's tempted by the devil for 40 days in the desert, right? Well, it's really simple what you have to do. You're on July 24th, count 40 days. It'll put you right here in Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, September 2nd, actually. Well, what's the very next passage? Matthew 4:3. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see mention of the bread, which tells you how the sun is in Virgo. So we're in Virgo. And now we're going to be in Libra, which is law, wine, and olives, remember? The next passage, Matthew 5:17 and 22, I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. Both law and judgment are Libra. We started in Cancer, and then we started in Leo, and then we went Cancer, Gemini, Taurus. Now we're in Leo. We went Virgo with the bread, and here with the law. So that's 7 signs in a row, by the way, that you're just opening up with. I mean, do you think this was done intentionally, or do you think this is just an absolute coincidence?
Well, I guess nothing is really accidental, but I got a question then. So you were saying that John the Baptist represents Aquarius?
Well,
Because I thought that
that's the sign of Aquarius.
Pardon?
Isn't it?
Well, this is the thing. I thought that Yeshua, before he passed, he said to look for the water bearer, which is Aquarius, which for me, I interpret it as 2,000 years ago, he was in
I know the
Pisces.
passage you're talking about. This is in the book of John, where the disciples say, "Where do we find you, my Lord? Where can we find you?" And he tells them, "Go into town. You'll see a man holding a water pitcher. Follow him to his house, the Zodiac house, and that is where you'll find me." And that, you're right. It is talking about Aquarius, the New Age, absolutely. Men never carried water back in the day, thousands of years ago. It was a feminine job. And we didn't have gendered shit like we have now. We didn't have this confusion going on right now. Like, men did men stuff, women did women stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Men never carried water. So the fact that he's carrying a water pitcher tells you that it's Aquarius. That has nothing to do with, oh, you just find some dude with a water pitcher.
Because for me, what that's the symbolizes is the return of the Son of Man, which is the consciousness, which all of us is basically all of us ascending to become the Christ, which you said is the anointed one, because the Christ is just a title, it's a spiritual office, right?
Well, here's the thing. If you take the Bible literally, you will never ascend. It is meant, religion and these holy texts, if you read them literally, and I'm going back 6,000 years to like Gilgamesh, if you, the Enuma Elish, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, all this stuff, if you take them literally, you won't ascend. It's the lowest form of spirituality that they give you. And these books are basically spiritual IQ tests as well, too, if you think about it.
That I agree with, which is why I was saying that there's allegory in terms of the Aquarius, which is where we're going into now, because basically my thought process is that first and first, Yeshua said, if they say I've returned, don't believe them. If they say I'm over there or there, don't believe them. So he's not coming back, first thing first. Secondly, when he said about look for my return, Aquarius is the Zodiac house, which is going to have the golden age, because we're basically in the Kali Yuga now, and the return of the Son of Man is prophesied in Revelations, where it says lightning will flash in the east and strike in the east and flash in the west, which is consciousness. It is not literal that we could have lightning, but it's global, it's worldwide, it's a consciousness. It is the actual us becoming the Son of Man, because he said, I did not come here to judge. I've reserved judgment for the Son, and we all are the Son. We become the sons of man. So this is why I was a bit not sure why you said that John the Baptist would be Aquarius, which would be the water bearer, when that sign is the return is showing the return of the consciousness,
because
the Christ consciousness,
right?
You're
conflating two things right now, is what you're doing. I told you that Thomas Didymus was Gemini. I told you that Scorpio was Judas. I told you that the just one was James. I told you that this is all through the story. You're thinking about it as an age. I'm not talking about it as an age. I'm talking about it as through the story. Who they represent, the 12 signs.
Okay.
Whereas you're taking this as John the Baptist would be Aquarius, where you're like, no, Aquarius, this is the age.
No. I was saying that I was wondering how, it was more of a question, how you link John the Baptist to Aquarius, because my thought process is going that Aquarius represents the new age, the ascension of man, and us becoming the Christ, which is talked about in the scriptures.
Right,
so I was trying to understand.
The sign of Aquarius is a man holding a water pitcher pouring it out. And that's exactly how John the Baptist baptized people. He's literally fulfilling the sign of Aquarius. That doesn't mean he's the age of Aquarius. That just means he's the sign of Aquarius in these stories.
Oh, okay. This is why I want a clarification on
No,
how you
no
link
problem.
that, because my brain was thinking in terms of something different, right?
You went too macro. That's what you did, but it's okay. I
Pretty
really
much,
understand. Yeah, there's levels to this. There's levels to this.
clearly.
So in Matthew 7:15 and 16, beware of false prophets who disguised as harmless sheep. The sheep is Aries right here. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? Well, the grapes are Libra. That's an opposing sign right here. Moving along, Matthew 13, later the same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. They use the word beside the lake. That would be right here. Because if he was in the lake, he'd be in Aquarius or Pisces. But he's beside the lake, so he's beside both of them. Its cross sign is the Leo Virgo cusp. So we could talk about lions or the lady with the wheat stalk or any of that kind of stuff. As it's across from Virgo, the wheat stalk, the grains, is it ironic that the next parables are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast? Moving right along, all you have to do is come back here, because next is the fishing net parable. So come back here, you're touching Pisces, and you can talk about the fish for the fishing net parable. Like I said, this is a keyword cipher that is jumbled up and used to make different stories, but all talking about the same thing. Gemini is the sign of two men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. Okay, so we're in Gemini because they mentioned the brothers. It ends here. Because if you follow this across, again, I'm only making opposing or connecting signs. This is the day of death. What's the very next story? The death of John the Baptist. As I previously mentioned, death comes at the end of Sagittarius. So I'm going to show you how scripture is written now. Let's take a sentence which sounds like it could be in the Bible but isn't. If I say to you, the rulers were divided between war and love. It split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation, or the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra, opposing sign, is Venus, who's the goddess of love. There's your war and love. If you connect it, it literally splits the land in half. You see how that works?
Okay, so you're saying then that you could create a verse then and then relate it back to the astrotheology. So astrotheology basically
that's what I just did.
Rules.
That's what I just did. I just showed you how scripture was written, how it works.
Okay. So basically you're saying then that everything, I don't want to say everything, but a lot of the stuff in these scriptures was just about how to plant, how to live, and to tell us, I guess, maybe the precession of the equinox.
What did I say at the beginning? You know, I'm only teaching one of these sciences that the Bible has. One.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling you, that there's all this.
Okay.
Okay? This is not a complete puzzle. This is just a teaching of astrotheology.
One aspect. Right.
To my level of understanding, to my level that I can show and prove certain things. Now, Matthew 14, 17, and 32, but we only have 5 loaves of bread. That's Virgo right here, the lady with the wheat stalk. And Pisces is the 2 fish. Well, guess what? He literally has 2 fish. So that's Pisces. These are opposing signs. We were just in the cross of God's Son. We were just in Virgo with the 5 loaves of bread, remember? And now next is Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? What stories do we get now? The temple tax, law. The unforgiving debtor, law. Divorce and marriage, law. And the parable of the vineyard worker, wine. Both law and wine are Libra. And Virgo and Libra are 2 connecting signs. Next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is where Jesus is betrayed with the kiss. So now we had Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio. What comes next? Well, that's Sagittarius. In Sagittarius, you have the death of Christ. So it ends with 4 signs. It begins with 7 signs, and then it ends with 4 signs. And that's the book of Matthew. Astrology is a language. If you understand this language, the sky speaks to you. And I understand this language, and that's what I try and teach people. I try and open people up to this. So, are you starting to see the great implication of this so far? What I'm showing you means that at the very, very, very least, what I want you to take away from this, okay? I don't want you to believe this as gospel. I don't want you to hate it. I want you to think on it. But at the very least, I want to show you that the Bible is not meant to be taken literally. And actually, I do have to read this one more time, and then I actually do have to go because my wife just got home. What is the point of this? We take for granted we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus is when you put the plow on the bull and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac, and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all this movement and make up stories to them and pass them down to their children, then to their children. Eventually they learned how to write and wrote them down, and they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism to Christianity to Muslims to the Mormons to everything. So my point once again is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. And that's basically the first half of my presentation. What did you think?
It's interesting because I think it can be quite easy to, I can't remember what, there's a term that if you want to look for something to confirm a certain pattern that you can do it, there's a particular term that you use. So I think there's some elements of that, but what you're explaining makes sense, and I can see the logic where you're coming from. I guess because I look at things in a slightly different way. I tend to look at things on a more macro level and not necessarily the astrotheological part and looking for all of the confirmations in terms of the Zodiac. So it gives me, I keep the door open to it, but what you're saying and how you put it together makes sense for a person that was listening or following. And what you said is true, right? Like the Bible is written in, it's a bunch of allegory, right? I refer to the Bible as like how cryptocurrency works. In the sense is that cryptocurrency uses encryption to send value from one person to the next. And you have to have the decryption keys in order to decrypt the wallet, extract the value, and to send. So I think that the Bible and a lot of these religious texts, to be fair, are pretty much like that, where you have to have some of the keys to decrypt the information. Mm-hmm. And some things are literal, some things are allegorical, some things are metaphysical, some things are all three together, right? Because, I mean, like, clearly the whole story of Yeshua dying comes from the same story of Mithra. It comes from the story of Horus. I think even Krishna, where he was born of a virgin, died in 3 days, risen again, and stuff like that. So the story clearly goes back to antiquity. And I think from memory, there are almost like 12 characters or something like that had the same exact story. So it's interesting that with your point, your view that it was used as like an almanac in order to live and to plant, right? So I can see that. But it's just interesting how they developed a book and put a bunch of allegory in and then put a belief system, and they have all us thinking that it's all literal, and us, yes, becoming very indoctrinated. And the thing is, a lot of people don't even follow what's even written in the Bible, right? Because just look at what's going on in the world, right? People say that they're Christians, and clearly they can't be following the religion because they're going against the stuff that Yeshua said. So I think it provokes thought for most people. And yeah, so you have to definitely go now.
I do. We could do part 2 though. Part 2 is going to be a lot faster than this. When I come back on, if you want to have me back on, I just want to start with it and continue. I'm going to show you 6,000 years of astrotheology. I'm going to show you it's not just the Bible. My first part of my presentation is the Bible, but then I go away from it. And then I show you how it's even stronger in ancient equity.
Well, I know for sure they had a lot more understanding of the cosmos cycle, because even what you described with the cusps, it works out to, when you do the math, it works out to the grand year, which is 25,920,
Yes.
right? So, it's very interesting that basically, I think that was the last full year where I think it was probably the last golden age, where we had, and where we're at now, we're in a full cycle, So you're saying then that each house is 432 years. So
No, I didn't think
that
each house
means
is 432 years. Each house is
no. You said it was 2,196, right? Was that the number?
2,160.
1,060. Right.
When you divide that
And
by the
then
30 degrees, because each sign has 30 degrees, you get 72 years, which is the average lifespan of a human.
yeah, we scoring 10. So this is why we probably don't even know any of this stuff, because what I see, the Anunnaki have tweaked our DNA and we can't even live past 120. So if we did, we would probably be way, way smarter,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would like to pick up where we left off, because I also have quite a few questions that I prepared to find out how you got into this work and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But
if anybody's
if
anybody's listening and you're interested in asking me questions directly, or you want to reach out to me, I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Micah Dank. On X or Twitter, I'm at Real Mr. Dank. My website is debunkmywork.com, and you can go directly there and you'll see a full breakdown of all these books that I've done with Astro, and a way to contact me at the bottom. I have my book series there too, which goes into this a lot deeper. And that's pretty much it. So Todd, we'll be in touch, and please let me know how this is received.
Yeah, so guys, Micah did, I think, a pretty good job of explaining this information. Some things, while I may not agree with, I put on the shelf, and I would encourage you all to do the same thing. Don't dismiss any information, put things on the shelf so that you can come back to it if you find other confirmations that this information resonates with you. And as you know, guys, I also have conversations like this, but I do it on a different side where I help people to get into the best shape of their lives. So if you would like to have similar conversations like this with me, work with me one-on-one, and also get into the best shape of your life so that I can help you improve mentally, spiritually, and physically, hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246, or my name Todd Cave, and let's see if you're a good fit for the Compound Body Training Army. And if you would like to start a spiritual journey, or you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, you can also hit me up and I can help you to get some magic mushrooms. So if that is something that resonates with you and you would like to get this process going, just hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246, or my name Todd Cave, and I will help you to get some magic mushrooms. And if you would like to support this podcast, you can do that. I have an Amazon store. You can help support this podcast and help us with things like video editing and stuff like that. We have some cool tank tops, hoodies, shirts, and sweats. Link will be in the description of this podcast. And I actually have on a shirt today from the Todd and Me series. So if you would like to get some cool gear and also to help us support the work we do, you can do that by visiting our merch store. And if you would like to contribute to this podcast in another way, but you don't want to necessarily get a shirt, you can also help us in our work by supporting our Patreon page or our locals page. Links will be to those pages also in the description of this podcast. Well, Micah, it was great chatting with you today, and I look forward to chatting with you again, and we can go a little bit deeper because I thought we had a little bit more time. But anyway, guys, this is another one. I hope that this episode provoked some thought and it added some value into your life. So remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep being the change you want to see. Speak to you soon. Cheers and namaste.